Today in class, we looked at how to simplify a radical. Simplifying a radical by factoring it into its smallest little parts. So I'm going to factor this into 16 and 3, and then 4 and 4. And so my n's are radical 4, and radical 3. And we learned that when they come in a pair, like radical 4 and radical 4, they get to go on the outside. They get to leave the jail and be free. Radical 3, however, does not have a pair, so it has to stay inside. So let's try radical 112. So if you broke this into two things, any two things, how about radical 2 and radical 56? And then I see, okay, 2's at the end of the line, but radical 56, that can be broken into 8 and 7. 7's at the end of the line. Radical 2 and radical 4, radical 2 and radical 2. So now I'm looking for pairs of things. And I actually have two pairs of things this time. I have these two radical 2's and these two radical 2's. So they both get to leave to the outside. So I get 1, 2 for the first pair, 1, 2 for the second pair, and then radical 7, because it didn't get to leave. It didn't have a pair. So my answer would be 4 radical 7. We did the same thing when we had variables. I can break this down into x squared and x, and then x and x. And again, I'm looking for pairs. So I have one pair of x's on the outside, and one x that didn't get a pair that's stuck on the inside. You do this one. So hopefully you did x to the third and x to the second. You really could have done this in any order. So then we have a pair here, and a pair here, and then one left over. So x gets to leave for this pair, x gets to leave for that pair, and then radical x is stuck on the inside. We obviously know that we can rewrite this as x squared radical x. All right, try this one. I'm really going to look at this as two separate problems, radical 72 and radical x to the 7th. For 72, I'm going to break this into 36 and 2. Now at this point, you might say, oh my gosh, 36 is a perfect square, and you can go ahead and skip down here to our answer. However, we can also break this into 6 and 6, and then 3 and 2, and then look for our pairs. So I have a pair of 3's, and a pair of 2's, and so I get a 3 and a 2 on the outside and radical 2 on the inside, which makes 6 radical 2. Now for the x to the 7th, I'm going to break this into 3 and 4, and you might notice that x to the 4th is a perfect square, so you could go ahead and put that on the outside, but we can also break this down even further. Oh, so many x's. So we have one pair there, a pair there, and a pair there, with one left over there. So that's 1, 2, 3 pairs, so x cubed radical x. Now I have to put those two answers together, this one and this one. So my final answer would be 6x cubed radical 2x. That'd be my answer. Lucky for us, our new topic today is pretty simple, multiplying radicals. So to multiply them, you just multiply everything together. You just have to multiply the coefficients together and the radicals together. Now, unfortunately, there are times where this radical can then be simplified. And unless it's simplified, you're not done. But in this case, radical 10 can't be simplified. So I'm going to leave it as 12 radical 10. Try this one. Make sure that your answer is completely simplified. So multiplying is pretty easy. We get 12 radical 12. But did you notice that radical 12 can be simplified? So I'm going to break it down into radical 4 and radical 3. Radical 4 has a pair of 2's, right? So that's actually 2 radical 3. That 2 comes outside to join the 12 on the outside. So it's actually 24 radical 3. Because I already had something on the outside and something came to join it on the outside, I just multiply those together. And then radical 3 is stuck on the inside. So again, we're going to multiply here, and we get 6x radical 24x squared, because x times x is x squared. The 24 and the x squared can be simplified. 24 can be broken down into a 4 and a 6, a 3 and a 2, and then another 2 and a 2. So I get one pair of 2's, and then radical 6 is just going to stay there because 3 and 2 both can't be simplified. So we get 2 radical 6. And then the x squared can also be simplified. It can be broken down into x and x, so I automatically have a pair of x's that get to go on the outside. So 6x was already on the outside, and now I have a 2 joining it, and an x joining it, and a radical 6 stuck on the inside. 6 times 2, 12x, times x is 12x squared, radical 6. So this is just a lot of icky simplifying at the end. But the multiplication itself isn't so bad. Try this one, and then you're done.